Hi, I'm Stephen Green. Now, I love the way the Lord God has ordered the world. Even post-fall, it seems pretty good to me. Everything in nature is interconnected and interdependent in ways which just could not have evolved. Just consider what the world would be like without fungi, those lowly organisms which break down and feed off decaying matter. Without them, trees and carcasses would be lying around all over the place. But I want to look at just one simple fungus created by God to provide two of the staples of life. Indeed, the two elements of the communion table. Come with me to Genesis chapter 14 and verse 18. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. We worked out who Melchizedek is in my Nanosermon, Who Was Melchizedek? But right now I want to concentrate on his bread and wine, because these two commodities are only made possible by God's amazing creation of yeast. Yeast is a microorganism which breaks down the simple sugars glucose and fructose and turns them by a biochemical reaction into alcohol and carbon dioxide gas. I'm talking here, of course, of ordinary bread, not unleavened bread, which is bread made without yeast or leaven. In ordinary bread, the carbon dioxide gas makes it rise, and the alcohol boils off during baking as a waste product. When making wine, the alcohol remains and the carbon dioxide is the waste product. In both these staples, the same process is called fermentation. Now, here's where it gets smart. Yeast can only ferment simple sugars, that's glucose and fructose. The sugar in grape juice is 50% glucose and 50% fructose, which is handy for making wine. Apple juice sugars are 90% fructose and 10% glucose. No matter, the juice will still ferment easily into cider. Yet, God has also created complex sugars, such as sucrose, that's your granulated sugar, maltose, which is in malt, and lactose, which we find in dairy products. They're like simple sugars bolted together by an oxygen atom. Their technical name is disaccharides. Yeast can't work on them, but each yeast cell carries a toolkit, a bag of spanners. The spanners are called enzymes, and they have names like maltase and sucrase. The yeast uses these enzyme spanners to unbolt the oxygen atom linking the complex sugars, leaving the simple sugars it can work on. Yeast finds itself in malt. Out comes the maltase spanner. Someone's added ordinary granulated sugar to his beer kit, another rummage in the toolkit for the sucrase spanner. In the case of the starch in bread flour, it's a polysaccharide called amylose, which is like 3 glucose molecules bolted together. So when yeast finds itself surrounded by amylose, it finds the amylase spanner and unbolts the amylose into 3 glucose molecules. Off goes the yeast to work on the glucose, and the CO2 from the chemical reaction is trapped by gluten, and that makes the bread rise. It's all so clever you couldn't make it up, and it's so interlinked it defies evolution. Finally, yeast reproduces by splitting, and it does that every 15 minutes. In one day it goes for around 100 generations, and in a year 35,000. 35,000 human generations would be around 1 million years, to put that in perspective. Some brewers have yeast strains going back 100 years or more, and this yeast is still yeast. It showed no inclination to evolve into anything else. With its God-created yeast DNA, nor could it, even if it wanted to. So whenever a baker bakes bread, or a vintner makes some wine, they're preaching a sermon on the greatness of God's creation. I love that. So would Melchizedek. Leave your comments below, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell, like and share this Nanosermon, leave your details on the link below, and think about supporting us with a gift. Thanks for watching.